I don't know if y'all have ever had the pleasure of going to one of these big 3-day auctions where they auction off a bunch of old tools, but I recently did, and I feel compelled to share the highlights of the experience with y'all. Just to set the stage, here's a small sampling of how the lots were laid out. So most of them are in these cardboard flats with the numbers and everything on them. You get a corresponding sheet. So you can go through and really put eyes on these tools and make sure that you know what you're bidding on if you're fortunate enough to be there in person. From what I hear, these are all going to be online from now on. But pretty much the tools from most disciplines, from most any occupation that you might need hand tools for, you can pretty much find them here. And now that you've seen these, let me show y'all what I managed to bring home. Because we got a later start than what we wanted to on Wednesday, we got up there late Wednesday night, really technically Thursday morning. So I didn't get to the auction until really late in the day on Thursday. And so I'm not ashamed to say that I actually got skunked on the first day. I did not win anything in the auction. I think I did buy a tool or two out in the field, but nothing from the auction. So the very next day, day 2, lot 808, were these two planes right here. And this was where I kind of broke my proverbial cherry, if you will. And I did win this lot. I paid a little bit more than what I wanted to, but I was okay with it. I had reviewed them and I was content with what it looked like. Obviously the 78 being complete was a huge bonus. And I really just wanted to kind of get that first one out of the way and go ahead and win a lot and see what that was like. This one does have a little pitting, little rust on the bottom, so we'll evaluate that a little closer. But y'all know I'm a big fan of the original blades. And you can see that's a Stanley Sweetheart. So again, first lot that I actually won, this was on day 2. And it was all downhill from there. This was another lot that I won on day 2. And I'm going to be honest, I don't remember exactly what I paid, but I felt like it was worth it. This is not everything that was in the lot, but it's indicative of what was in there. This bedrock cap, unfortunately, is cracked. I might send that off to Mike Muscat and have him fix it up and maybe strip that paint off of it. Maybe we can bring that little guy back to life. And then here's the sole from that same bedrock. And unfortunately, that mouth is pretty open, and somebody obviously altered that. Couple block planes in there. There is a 140, and this was one of the things that I was bidding on. Of course, that knob will have to be replaced, but I think that mouth is pretty solid. I think this 140 can be saved. I'll have to come up with a side plate for it, but I've got a patron, Mr. Mark, that's looking for one of these, so maybe we'll try and bring this one back to life. It is an earlier one. It's got that patent date there, so we'll try and bring that little guy back to life. And then a Sargent for the VVM guys, a little auto set there. Doesn't look too bad. Unfortunately, the tote's kind of jacked there. I'm not convinced it's an original Sargent, but you get the idea. And then yet another rabbit plane sole, because that's what we all need. This was easily the largest lot and the most expensive lot that I won out of the entire 3 days of bidding. And I don't mind telling y'all that I'm in this thing for 200 bucks. Actually, a little more than that with the buyer's premium. But it's so many items, I can't even fit them all on the screen at once. So let me just hit some highlights here. I have enough of these soles, or main bodies rather. I have enough of these main bodies to last a lifetime and beyond. So with these, if it's something that's less common, like the S-casting, you know, maybe I'll be able to move those. But obviously they're not in great condition. But what I was looking for here was stuff like this, because these are sometimes a little hard to find, these small depth stops. So I'm going to recover those and sell those. And then of course, a good spur and screw. I'll sell a few of those as well. But in the box, just running loose down at the bottom, were some other attachments like these. There was only one cam rest in the whole lot. So if I wanted to try and put together a complete number 45 or 2, it's probably not going to happen. Well, I can tell you it's not going to happen. I might be able to get one together. And this, you know, most of y'all probably recognize this is actually from a router plane. But that's got some value too. I mean, I'll probably get like 10, 12 bucks for that. And this little dude, this is actually a Type 1, or mostly Type 1. This brass right here has some decent value to it, and then even this brass wing nut right here does as well. You can see the notchless blade here. It was just the one blade with it. And look at that, another small depth stop. So this is one that I might be able to return to service if I can get it all back together. But check that out. That is actually a Type 1 number 45 fence. So that's why I referred to it as a Type 1. It doesn't have the screws there with no screwdriver slots, but still a nice piece to have. And if I can find some blades to go with that, you know, maybe I can hook Skippy up because he already asked me about it. And here's another early 45, but this one does not have a fence. Can't tell exactly the age on it, and it's in much worse condition. But same thing, it's got some recoverable parts on there. It's actually got a later model 1/8 inch blade on there, so that's pretty interesting. And another one of those original brass. And those go on a number of different planes, so whether it ends up being on another 45 or whatever, Miller's patent or something, but that one has some value as well. And then I guess it's sort of a combination plane, not really. It's a tongue and groove, and this is actually a union. So these were made by Stanley. It's made in the Stanley style. And this one is pretty rough. You can see that pitting, where this one's probably spent some time being pretty rusted, and then somebody probably knocked that outer rust off. And like we so often see, naturally it's missing the blades. And with one like this, I might even just recover those blades to put them with one that's in a little better condition. So that one, maybe I'll recover some good parts off of it. I don't know that anybody's going to want to return that one to service. There was also this very unique 192, and I say it's unique because it doesn't have Stanley on it anywhere. So I don't know if this was one that Stanley made for a hardware company of some kind. There's no blade for me to verify that. I didn't even know they made 192s for other companies. So this is a new one on me. But it's got that good depth stop. Obviously not an original screw, but it's got that good depth stop, and I can sell a lot of these. I get a lot of requests just because they show up on so many rabbit planes. And it's always good to get some more long rods and some short rods if there's any in here, but either way, it's good. And then just a lot of other random number 45 pieces, just to kind of show you just kind of what was in there, and some more spurs and screws, and some more of these as well, some more of these regular screws for the skates. Eventually, some of this stuff will sell, and honestly, I have so much of it now that a lot of it probably never will, but it's always good to have, especially those in stock. One of my favorite parts of this lot was there were a couple of number 46s in there. And I've had at least one of my patrons already reach out and ask about one of these. And that's probably where it's going to go, if it turns out to be one that he needs. So, Paul, if you're out there watching, hey, it's all you, buddy. But this one has most, well, I shouldn't say most, it has all the main parts. I was really, really hoping that there would be a skewed blade or two for a number 46 in the lot, but unfortunately that did not pan out. But what was there is a good 46 spur or two, maybe 3, and then one of these original number 46 depth stops, and that alone is definitely worthwhile. I mean, that thing usually sells for anywhere between 40 and 50 bucks, usually about 40, 45 bucks for one that's not marked, maybe a little bit less. And unfortunately, this one didn't have a skate, but I have lots of those if I wanted to try to return this one to service. It's got a good fence on it, and it's got some good rosewood. So if nothing else, I might be able to get something out of that fence. And speaking of fences, this was kind of wild to me. There were a total of 4 fences in there, and it appears that at least probably 2 or maybe even 3 of them have a good knob on them. And this knob right here, Stanley actually went away from this design and went with a through bolt down through the center because these were so commonly broken. This is what you find, I would say, at least 80 or 90% of the time if you find a number 45 out in the wild. But oddly enough, there were actually some decent knobs in here. I mean, this one you can tell is a little chewed up down there around the base, and oh, it looks like a crack there. But, oh, and you can tell somebody had actually put some type of wrap around there in order to take that knob. So that one probably serviceable, even though that part of the fence looks like crud. And then this one, of course, has the typical paint that you see so often on these old tools. But hey, it looks like those threads are actually in pretty good shape. So those knobs will do really well for somebody who has an old 45 that they're trying to bring back. And see, look at that, that actually over tightened. So that one's not perfect, but this one is really not bad. So if you happen to be looking for one of those, at this point, you know how to get a hold of me. If not, find my email on the welcome page here on YouTube. Last and certainly not least from this lot, and if I'm being honest, when I was looking at the lots prior to the auction and kind of reviewing and seeing which ones I wanted to make a run at, which ones I wanted to bid on, I did not realize just how many blades were included. And this was a pleasant surprise when I won the lot. Like I said, about 200 bucks, and then plus the buyer's premium and all that. But you can see there's quite a few blades here. I will try to put together at least one set from this, because I am going to try to put together at least one, if not two, complete 45s and try and sell them. But this was one of the more pleasant surprises here. You can see that's a patented slitter. Now the end of it is a little bit chewed up. It could use some sharpening. It will need some sharpening. But the fact that it's patented, these are a lot less common, and they go with some older combination planes. But you can see quite a few blades there. While we're on the topic of combination planes, let me go ahead and go over this one as well. A lot of good things going on inside the auction house with the auction itself, but there were some great things out in the field as well. So I was able to pick up all of this in a lot and was able to work out kind of a bundle price with the seller. And these are mostly type 5 blades, and we know that because it's got the little hole there as opposed to a notch. So you figure type 4 did not have notches or holes, and then type 5 was the first time we see these, and Stanley opted to go with the hole. Now some of these do have notches, so it's not a complete set of type 5 blades, but this is a type 5 number 45 here, and overall it's in pretty decent shape. It's got quite a few of its parts, not all of them. And what was interesting is the seller was selling both that box of blades and this roll of blades. And if you know your combination planes, you know that these are actually from either a Sargent or a Craftsman, but they are Sargent built, and we know that by these two little notches down here at the bottom. And these are not in the best of shape. I mean, I'm sure some of them can probably be saved. Somebody out there has a, what is it, a 1080 and a 1085 Sargent's answer to the Stanley 45 and 55. But somebody may be able to restore these, or at least put them back to work. I shouldn't say restore them. But I mean, I'm talking like $1 a piece on these blades if anybody needs them, just based on their condition. So let me know on that. And then the other part of this bundle package was this pretty decent number 12. I haven't 100% decided what I'm going to do with it. It does have this little scar down here on the bottom, and I'm afraid that that's really going to hurt its value. I don't know that anybody's going to want to pay kind of full price with that scar. But the highlight of this particular one, I get requests for these all the time, and I've even started making, or with the help of Meds, I make reproductions of them. But you can see that's an original Sweetheart blade, and you just don't see those out there very often. So no matter what I decide to do with this one and with that scar, it was definitely worth what I paid for it in the bundle. Now remember, out in the field there were a number of dealers out there, and the reason why I know these two is because they have those little orange price tags. But this is one dealer, and he was running a special. So these were both in the $20 box. So just ignore those little price tags. But he ended up making me a deal, and he charged me 20 bucks. And I got both of these for, obviously, for parts. So you can see the pretty horrendous cracks on these, on both of them. And this is an older one. I mean, you can see it's a pre-lateral. But I'm going to be able to recover some good parts on these. As a matter of fact, you guys will see these two again in the flipping series, of the $5 flipping series, because I'm going to recover the good parts off of these. So make a mental note, you'll see these again. I was pretty fortunate while I was there. I had Lou, Big Lou, that was kind of hosting, and he let me hang out in his tent and let me put some stuff out for sale. And I also bought these two planes from him. So it's a Sargent 410 there. I think it's a little bit later one, but you know, those number 4.5 equivalents are always pretty popular. So patrons, if you like that one, let me know. And then I also got this nice Type 9 number 5 from him. So kudos to Big Lou. Thank you. This lot of chisels was another day 2 buy. And it's just because I mainly got them because I have so many folks that are asking about chisels lately. This little crank neck I'm actually going to keep for myself. But the rest of these I am going to sell. I mean, there's obviously a couple pretty decent chisels in here. So I just got to go through them, and I know I've got some patrons that are interested in a number of these. So there's a nice mortising chisel there, a nice skinny one. Well, these are pretty nice. Obviously, some of them are nicer than others, but you can't go wrong with some good socket chisels. And hopefully I'll be able to make a couple bucks off of these. This was another purchase from out in the field, so it was not an auction item. I have a number of back saws and a number of really nice back saws that I really like. I don't have any really small ones like this. And while I'm not crazy about these two holes right here, the handle is just in absolutely phenomenal shape as near as I can tell. Maybe a little hiccup there, but nothing too serious. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually send this off to Bob Page up at Loon Lake Toolworks. So y'all look for a video or two about that, whether it's this saw or another one. Hopefully I can get that together soon. But this is going to make a nice user. I might have Bob go ahead and just replace that plate. And I'll keep the folded back up here with the Henry Diston, but just replace the plate. And I do like this, having the tape over the teeth, to make it a lot less likely for somebody to hurt themselves while this thing is up for sale. This little 5 1/4 was in a lot with something else. I don't remember what else was with it. This is not an original tote, so I am going to have to replace that. That diagonal knurling indicates probably type 18. Well, there's no probably about it. It is a type 18 brass. I don't know about the rest of it. But I get a lot of requests for 5 1/4. See, that's actually a type 16. So nickel plated, got the patent info on the back, so it's a type 16. But we're going to figure that out, whatever type it is, and we're going to get this thing back together. I'll clean it up a little bit. But I get frequent requests for 5 1/4, so I don't think I'll have any trouble selling that one. And speaking of 5 1/4, I bought this lot specifically for this type 13 5 1/4, and this is the first year, the first type, what we now call type 13, when 5 1/4 actually came out. And I think I'm going to clean this one up pretty well. I did look it over ahead of time and kind of made the decision that I was going to go after it lot-wise. But this one is in pretty decent shape. Of course, it needs a new tote, or a replacement tote. It's going to need an original lever cap. But we're going to bring that one back to life. And then I got these other ones, parch planes here. I'll see what I can do and what all I can save off of this one. It's former number 5. I guess now it's a, what, 4 3/4 or something. And then this number 5 1/2 here, and to be honest, I think this one may be able to be saved as well. I mean, it's got that pitting and stuff down there on the bottom, but if nothing else, maybe not. So that's some pretty deep pitting on the side. But I'm going to recover what I can, get that frog off of it for sure, and return that to service. But still not a bad deal. Like I said, the main thing I wanted was that 5 1/4. The auction wasn't all old tools. You could also bid on this chastity belt if you happen to need one of those. I think it sold for like $400. Or maybe you need a little ass. You might want to throw a bid at this one. Kind of wish I had bid on it, but alas, no ass. One type of plane that I get a lot of requests for is number 71s. So this one came up in a lot. I don't remember what else was with it, but I figured I better take a run at it. It did have the 2 blades and has a throat closing attachment, which is usually missing, or it'll just have just one blade. So I figured I'd take a run, and it does have some rust, but I'm not really too worried about that. I think that's going to clean up okay, and this one's going to come out just fine. But speaking of router planes, I was out there looking at the next couple lots that were coming up. I got distracted. I was talking to somebody back home via text, and I ended up missing a lot or two. And one of them had a pretty decent pattern maker's reproduction of a router plane, a number 71 1/2. So I ended up missing it, and then later on, I was actually sitting behind the guy who had won the lot. Now, most of the time, somebody just won something, you're probably not going to ask them, hey, are you going to sell that? Because that's probably considered bad form, and I wasn't trying to get shanked up in the auction. But I did tactfully ask him, hey, you planning on keeping that, or are you selling it? What's your plan? And he said, yeah, I'm planning on selling it. I said, how much you got to have for that? And he told me, and it was just one plane out of the lot. But we were able to make a deal, and I was able to get this nice bronze reproduction 71 with the nice, pretty decent handles on there. And I was pretty stoked about it because this one is actually going in my collection. So at a future MWTCA meet, you're probably going to see all of my brass/bronze tools all on display. And that'll be cool. But I was pretty stoked about getting this one, especially after I didn't pay attention in the auction. I think we all won on that one. And this was a day 3 lot right here that I won. It was one of only, I think, maybe 2 or 3 lots that I won on day 3. And I swear it's like this particular lot was tailor-made for me. It's not everything that was in there, but you get the idea here. Of course, depth stop. Another slitter, because you could never have too many of those. And this is another patented one. And that one's in even better shape than the last. Some short rods, a spoke shave, and a number 78 fence there. And I'll be honest, when I saw the picture, I was really hoping that this was going to be a Stanley, but it's actually a Sargent. It's got the 79 on the back, so the little groove is on the wrong side to work on a Stanley.
But it'll work on a Sergeant, so if you happen to have a Sergeant rabbit plane, you're looking for one of those, let me know. And a good old fence for a router plane, for a later router plane. So you can't beat that. It's always good to have those in inventory. And yet another 55 body, because that is exactly what I needed, was more combination plane common parts. And I shouldn't talk too much junk, because this does actually have a spur back there that you can't hardly see. And those number 55 spurs can be a little difficult to come by sometimes. So, you know, it's going to be okay on that. But overall, pretty solid lot for day 3. Last and most certainly not least was this lot that I also won on day 3. This was one of 2 I think I won on the last day before we called it early. I'd already spent too much money and was running out of room in the car to bring them back. So y'all don't care anything about this, and to be honest, I don't even know what this is. If you happen to know what this is, I think maybe it has something to do with the book, maybe like bookbinding or something. That's just a wild guess. But if you happen to know what this is, let me know in the comments. But this, you guys don't care about that. What y'all care about is this right here. Okay, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one that cares about it. But check that out. That is a metallic router. So you see some of these large wooden ones, but you don't see the large metallic ones as often. And this thing is pretty unique, and I was pretty stoked to get it. And just to put this in perspective, there's the difference in size between those two. So you can really see how much larger this one is. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean off the bottom of it, get rid of that gunk down there, and then I'm pretty much going to call this good. I mean, for all I know, that could be lead-based paint. I'm not trying to mess with that. But this thing is pretty unique, and y'all know I collect routers, so that one's going to have a permanent home here in the shop of MJ. Y'all know what to do. If you see something you can't live without, reach out, let me know. Patrons, y'all take priority. If you're not signed up to be a patron, maybe now's the time. Go ahead and sign up and get your discount starting today. Hey, y'all, thanks for watching.